Karen got back the draft version of her children's book from the hybrid publisher, and it was a complete mess. She was ready to give up, but that would have been a huge mistake. That's the reason why today we're discussing how to get a book published. This is Chris Baird from selfpublishingmadeeasynow.com, where self-publishing doesn't have to be so hard. So Karen was a children's writer who lives in Illinois. And the thing is that she herself is not an illustrator, but she has an awful lot of ideas for different children's books. And that was one of the things she wanted to do, which is getting her children's book self-published. Well, she wanted to get it traditionally published, but found that was a bit of a problem. But she wasn't exactly sure upon the steps that were necessary to go about doing this. She had a friend who actually did get a book through the publishing process, and it looked absolutely amazing. And that showed Karen that it actually is possible to go about moving through step by step through the process. The problem is that if she didn't get it onto the market, all of these stories that she had told her own children but never actually got them into a book would be completely wasted. All of the children in the world who would be able to benefit from her stories and also possibly provide a side income for Karen. And that was one of the main motivations she had to get going in the first place. But she began to doubt whether or not the quality of her books would be good enough to actually see the success that she was needing to get. So the first thing she did was she had written the book and she put it together. She needed an illustrator and realized this publishing processes were so complex that it would be better for her just to go with a hybrid company. And that's exactly what she did. So she told them a little bit of the idea of the illustrations that she would want in her book, and they were able to put the whole thing together. The only problem was when they finally gave her back her manuscript, it was a complete mess. The formatting was off. The illustrations were low quality. They didn't match at all what she had envisioned, and this was going to be a problem for her. So what happened at this point was she asked me a question on Quora. She said, what exactly are these publishing steps that I'm going to need to do, and what should I do at this point? And that was when I discussed with her the breakdown of the phases of self-publishing. And this is a very important thing that so many new authors get wrong. And you think you can skip this and just hire somebody else to do it all for you, but that would be a major mistake. So let's go through exactly what is necessary if you want to get your book published and onto the market and selling. So the first phase of publishing is the research phase. Now this one here is the one that causes most books not to sell. We hop right over it into phase 2 without bothering to research what exactly we're writing on. And in her case, one of the problems she was facing was that she was writing a type of children's book that was targeting a topic for which we simply couldn't find any books on Amazon on this topic, which means how many books are currently selling? How big of a market are we looking at? The answer is there is no market. There is no market if people are not buying. Now, you may be thinking that you're going to be the first author to come out with this type of book. In her case of Karen's, she'd be hitting the market with a book on this type of children's book that nobody had ever thought of before. The only problem is if nobody's ever thought of it before, most likely nobody's actually searching for the topic either. There's no problem of doing this once you're a well-established author. You can build and create new markets where they've never existed. But when we're first getting started, we need to ensure that there are already books in the type of genre sub-niche that we're shooting at that are already on the market and selling. Now, we may choose to take that market and go one layer deeper in order to be the only one with this exact type of book. But in terms of the higher level market, it has to already exist. We're not trying to, because here's the reason. This is the big reason. With any product or service you're selling, if the market does not exist yet, we have to then inform those people that they should focus on this exact market, and they should start going through the steps and trying to educate them. And that is what we do not want to do. We do not want to educate people and create a market. We do not want to persuade people that they have a need already. Rather, we want to tap into an existing need or desire that they already have in order for them to put their book onto the market. So do whatever you do, do not hop over the research phase, which involves specifically going through where there already is a market and an underserved market where there's not that many books on this exact market. Then we move into phase 2. That is the writing phase. Most authors believe it's the only phase. Now, this is another huge mistake. When we get to the writing phase, we also, based upon our research, are going to know a little bit about what is our cover going to look like, our title going to look like based upon the best sellers in our market. We're going to have an idea of what is the average length and expectation. What kind of children's illustrations, for example, are expected when it comes to this type of book. Not all illustrations are equally good. Some illustrations are better than others. How do we know which ones are best? Well, which books are already selling with those illustrations? In other words, Amazon is already sharing all of this information with us. So when we're going to enter the writing phase, based upon the chapters, maybe the titles that are going into those chapters, the chapter headings, the sub-chapters, for example, the breakdown of the book, the overall length of the book, how exactly we're dealing with this title and subtitle. And the reason you might be thinking is, what you might think, write the book first, then figure out the title and subtitle. But no, we don't want to do that. Our title and subtitle will play directly into this, because obviously, how are we going to know what to write if we don't already have a good idea of what this book is about and which market we're writing towards? And that's why the research phase is the most important phase of the entire process. Your book will live or die based upon what exactly happens during that phase. That then moves us on to the third phase, which is the formatting phase. This is where we're putting it all together. We're going to order the cover for our book using 99 designs, like I do, as you can see in the description. That's the one that I use for this process. Then we're going to have the formatting of the book itself. I use Jutoh, and I also have a course below in the description that goes through how to pull your book together, putting it together using Jutoh in order to figure out getting the formatting exactly perfect. As we pull that together, we pull our cover directly into it so that we're going to be able to hit a single button and have the version for our Kindle version, our paperback, our hardback, all of the different versions we're going to need, even for the audio version, that we're going to need in order to get this book to look very sharp. And when we're doing the formatting, this comes back a little bit to the research to see exactly what do the books look like that are the best sellers. If they have a title page, and then they have this, and they have the next page, and the copyright, and these sorts of things, we're going to follow that exactly, with one exception. We do not put a preface in there. We don't put a bunch of information at the beginning of the book. The best sellers that are known by well-known authors may do this, but we are simply not going to do this with our book. That will kill your sales. No weird long introductions and all this stuff. It's going to be nice and short and right on into the book. So there's our first rule that we're going to do. The second thing is we're going to ask people to join our email list. Many of the main authors do not do this, and we want to get them on the email list. So that's just a little bit of a tip. You can do it at a later point when you're first getting started, but on the publishing steps, this is part of the formatting. So now we have the book completely together, and we're going to upload this book to Amazon KDP. We're going to have our ebook and our paperback book, quickly to be followed by our audiobook, and we're going to put the hardback as well. So we're going to have all of these different formats that are there. Later on, we'll look at Ingram Spark as well for the distribution of our book across these different platforms. And this, finally, on the publishing of a book, brings us to phase 4, which is the marketing phase. And this is an incredibly important phase for our book, and this is where we're going to be doing two forms of marketing in particular. One is paid ads using Amazon ads. This is going to tell us whether our cover and our title are a good match. Are we even able to get people to click at all? So that's the first thing we're going to do. And the second thing we're going to do is content marketing. And that's the reason I have a content marketing course below in the description that goes through the phases necessary. It's the long game we're talking about. If you have the desire with your publishing of your book, you've gone through these steps, and you're thinking that you're going to hit a home run on your first book, that is so unbelievably difficult to do that it's going to take a period of time and multiple books and lots of practice to get there. I don't know why people assume that if you're painting that you would be making an amazing Mona Lisa on your very first try. The same goes with your books and your self-publishing journey. It's not going to happen on your very first try. In fact, for most authors, it's going to take about 3 to 5 years to build up that audience where you have that trust that's going on. And if you don't believe me, put your book onto the market market, run the ads in these things, and you'll notice that most books start to flatline. You sell some copies to your friends. I've even had some students who've even won a bunch of prizes for their books, and even then it starts to flatline. The biggest challenge they have is they don't have the reviews, and do not be so hard on yourself. Once you go through these publishing steps, we're going to go back and loop back and implement even more advanced strategies, as I do with most of my coaching clients. We go one layer deeper. We try to do only one thing at a time as we're moving through these, but then on the next phase, there are all sorts of stuff we can do to improve the probability of sales. Notice I didn't say there's no guaranteed profit that you're going to win on everything, but we want to ensure we give our books the best chance to win in terms of the probability that they're going to start selling. And that's something that you're definitely going to want to pay attention to. And the thing is, for Karen, is that she discovered that really this wasn't as difficult as she thought. She was just trying to do too many things at a time. She saw her market that she was targeting was off, so she moved over to a friendlier market where there were books in the children's illustrated books that were selling. In addition, she went on to Upwork and she found an illustrator who would be able to do it. You can also use 99 Designs to do this exact same thing, but she found an illustrator who was able to do her book at a reasonable price as she was moving through the self-publishing steps. And the thing is, she's not finished getting her book on the market, but she's much happier with the process. It's not moving as fast as she would like, but let's not be hard on ourselves. This is a process. We want to produce a quality book. We give ourselves time. We're not going for perfection. But look, we need to get samples from these illustrators. We need to see that we're happy with them. We're pulling them into Jutoh to make sure they're properly formatted, and that gives us everything we need in order to succeed at our self-publishing. My question for you today is, what step of the self-publishing process are you in? Let me know below in the comments, because I need to know how far have you come. Thanks.